You're listening to Chaotically Disciplined with your host Shannon and Zaida, two goofy real-life rave moms where we chat about fitness, parenthood, and our love of music festivals.
We'll show you that you can have time management skills, occasional meltdowns, and be disorganized as fuck, but still always get shit done.
Welcome back. It's been a long, busy summer. Me and Shannon unintentionally took the summer off because we were so busy. We just did not have the chance to record, so it was a much-needed summer break.
Yep.
To just
But it delineated the seasons because we launched the podcast about this time last year. I think it was September or maybe it was late August. I don't know. Now I got to go back. Look at the first one. But
Yep.
we had planned it for so long. And then we pre-recorded a lot because you were pregnant.
Mhm.
So I can't remember when the official launch was, but we
It
kept
was
trying to,
September. You're right.
yeah, we kept trying to decide like, okay, how long is season one going to go on? We had the best of intentions to kind of keep up with things during the summer, but we both ended up traveling a lot more, which we'll get into, than we anticipated. And then it's just hard, you know, for you. It's harder for you because your kids are smaller to be able to record. But even for me, with the kids home all summer, it was sort of like I would still have to coordinate, like, okay, guys, be quiet, or everybody leave the house. And our schedules didn't line up. So we were like, you know what? We'll just pause. And then now we're on to season two.
Yes. And it's appropriate for this episode to be about traveling with kids. That's what we're going to talk about and kind of how different it is because your kids are in a totally different age group than mine are.
Yeah.
I have a now 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and your kids?
My kids are 16, 13, and 10. So
Right.
I've been where you are. I've been where you are and completely different now traveling with them. Like you still travel, I think, at least by car. I think you did most. Did you do most of your traveling by car or plane this summer?
We did, it's almost all by car,
Yeah.
one plane trip to New Jersey for a
Like
little small trip.
I did do quite a good bit of traveling via plane when my kids were that age, but by car it was like, no. And now traveling by car and long road trips is actually fun because of their ages. But at the ages your kids are, I would have rather gone. Obviously that's not always an option. But
Mhm.
my traveling alone with them was by plane. If I went anywhere, like if we had to do a long car trip, I was like, I guess we're not going.
It's a little brutal at times. I mean, the plane trips I made more of when it was just Xavier because he was a lab baby and he was free, and I definitely was just like, "Let's take advantage of this," and I felt more confident in going by myself with him on trips. I thought it was honestly not that bad until he started running and I'd have to, like, chase him in the airport, whatever, that was okay as with 1. But
Yeah.
now with 2, I have been hesitant, and we finally took Henrik on his first plane ride in the middle of July, and Craig was with me, and I was just like being honest with myself that I could pull off the two, but I was like, let me not do that because I don't feel like going through that yet. And so it went fine. He did fine. It's just that, you know, breastfeeding the baby and having a toddler that's super busy to deal with is challenging. So car rides are more what we're doing more consistently, especially because our family is in drivable distance, like about 8 hours to see Craig's family. Mine in Boston, though, it's still like a 14-hour drive. Once you start
Yeah.
hitting Jersey and all those states, it can just ramp up. So we haven't driven there and we probably will not. We'll just fly there. We are going there in October, but yeah, car rides are intense. We drove to see you guys in Florida as part of our Florida trip in March. That was before the summer, but that was a test, because it was such a long one. Um
How long was that drive? Did y'all break it up into 2 days? I don't remember.
we did. I was just like, please help me, don't do it. Because Craig would have kept going to the very end. And I was like, that was probably like
That's a lot for little
like
kids
a
in the car.
12-hour, like, or like 11 hours, something like that. And I'm like, I'm gonna die. Like, I cannot do this. So we did break it up into two parts on the way down. On the way back, we drove from Tampa straight up through the night. Through the night, I just like I lose it. Like in the sense of like, I'll just be like, this is horrible, because the kids set each other off.
Yeah.
Like if Xavier's awake and weepy, then it wakes the baby up, and so it's definitely challenging. I'm willing to do it just because like I would like to travel and I want to go places. So I'll like put my head down and just be like, screw it, we're gonna make this happen. But it's definitely stressful with little kids because of their the timing of everything.
Yeah. They don't like being in the car for too long. They, depending on where you are with potty training, like, that's a whole thing. Then when you get and then the travel is not even the whole thing. It's like when you're whether or not, because me and you are both pretty much the same as far as, like, how strictly we are with, like, schedules. It's like, we're not the moms that, like, their kids have a very rigid schedule, and that works for some people. Like, it's kind of always been, "Oh, if you're gonna take your nap in the car in your car seat, then great, or I'm gonna let you do that." Like,
Mhm.
and there's a window, and, oh, if you skip a nap, like, not the end of the world, probably be paying for it later, but I'm not gonna, like, build my schedule and what I wanna do based on them on the day to day. But even when you're like that, like, more of like the type B or C or whatever we are, mom, they still have some sort of a flow that they follow when they're used to being in their own home. So then when you're traveling, visiting family, whatever it is, it's not even just the travel that is can be, like, stressful, but it's how they are when they're off of their schedule, no matter how loose it is when you're at somebody else's place.
So
And
true.
that, like, you feel the effects of that when they're littler, much more than my kids' ages. Like, my kids had pretty much no schedule all summer, but they're big. They're big, and so, when
Right.
they were small, it used to be like, "Okay, like, you've been going to bed so much later, so, like, we kinda gotta get you used to going to bed earlier now, waking up earlier now," and I would back that up, like, the week, a few days before school started, and this time I was like, "Look, you're just gonna be tired this first week. You wanna go to bed at
Yep.
midnight every night? You're gonna have to wake up at 6:30 now. You're just gonna be tired. Like, you'll figure it out."
Welcome to adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still a 10-year-old involved, but I think anybody who has multiple kids knows that it you get a little more lax with things with each child, so, like, that's why the birth order thing, like, really, really is true because you parent them differently. They all live in the same house, but you relax certain rules, so Kate has a much later bedtime at his age than the older 2 ever did. I would never have even considered that, but what am I
Yep.
gonna do? He shares a room with his brother, who's 13. The rules are a little bit different for him, so you adjust
Yeah.
with each kid.
You have to. It's so natural, and, like, you can be, like, implementing those rules, but you have to be, like, aware enough if you wanna make that happen, and honestly, it's doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, especially since he's sharing the room.
Right.
But yeah, I found I'm lucky in terms of the that my boys both nap in the truck pretty well. Xavier is pretty good about potty training where, like, he will let us know with enough time, and also if I stop frequently enough or if he would stop frequently enough and just have him go every time. He's almost not had any accidents, so we're very lucky like that with
Mhm.
that. Um, but this is the thing that I knew you would find funny. My sister-in-law told me about this when I first had Xavier that she's like, "Well, if you're in the car and the baby's crying, just give him a boob. Like, just lean over and give him a boob." And that's exactly how I make it through these car trips. I don't stop every time he needs to nurse.
Yeah.
I lean over, I crush my rib cage, I twist myself in a strange direction, and I do that. And that is how we survive the road
So,
trip.
we are very big sticklers for no one gets unbuckled in the car, ever.
It's a better idea.
So, that would never have flown. It would just have been, you know, prep a bottle and hope she takes it, which, I mean, I say she, because Allie was always the one that, like, I she would not take bottles, definitely not for me.
Mhm.
So it was just like, "We'll have to stop. We'll have to stop and feed her." But we didn't by the time we had the boys, we weren't traveling long distances in the car. Like, I'm sure I don't know. I have to, like, sit down and think. I don't think I ever went anywhere for long distances in a car ride when the boys were at that age and I was breastfeeding. I just I traveled via plane, and
Mhm.
so it's like, well, yeah, I would do that on the plane. Um, but yeah,
Definitely safer.
yeah, yeah.
It sounds so
But
bad now that I'm saying, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't well, I do unbuckle, but,
but you do what you gotta do, you know? It's just that if I have to, like, briefly unbuckle to, like, help someone with something in the back, it's like, "Okay, hurry, 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 buckle up as fast as you can."
well, it should be that way, I understand.
Yeah, but everybody has their thing, like, their rules that they're like, "No, we're definitely sticking by that one," and then other ones that you're like, "Nah, we can bend that one a little bit."
Yeah,
Um,
I'm definitely, like, leaning forward to reach for the carrots in the front, pulling back, get the diaper over here, like, get the toy that my toddler decided to be like, "Oops, I didn't want it."
yeah,
Snack on the ground. And
yeah,
also, road trips with kids, let me just tell you how you and I'm sure you understand this, but I don't know if it happens to you now, but how you'll go into the car and it's clean, and literally, like, 15 minutes later, it's like,
yeah, I mean, we clean it before we go, we have, like, a whole system, which is, like, a thing now too, because we do it so much more frequently with them because 'cause they're bigger. We
Mhm.
have a pretty good system, like, we have, like, one of those, like, luggage things you put on the top of your car, so, like, we put the luggage
Ooh.
in there, so
Oh, you mean on the actual top?
yeah, like, those are
Yeah, yeah.
like, pod looking things, I don't know what it's called,
Okay.
that you
I
can
thought you
roll
were
up.
gonna tell me something that's, like, within the car for, like,
No, it's on
organizing
top of the car,
things.
it
I'm like, "What?"
attaches, and you just shove all your shit in there, and then so we have more room, so they're not so crammed, and not that we don't have anything in the car, we just don't have a lot of stuff in the car. And they're just now at ages too where, like, we feel more comfortable letting them eat in the car because I never really yeah, I would give them, like, little snacks when they were small, but I would try not to do that because of, like, choking. Like, if I'm the only one in the car and someone's eating something starts choking, like, that
Right.
was always a concern. So, we always limited that. It was that and then, like, them being too young and they were gonna make a mess eating in the car.
Mhm.
Um so now they're old enough to where it's like, all right, sometimes that makes stopping for on road trips much more efficient. Like it used to be a whole thing. Now we have to feed them. We all have to get out. We have to like stop and feed everybody sitting down. And that was a whole production that took up a lot of time. So road trips took longer. And now not that we will never stop to eat, but usually it's like I drive through and I pass everything back and it's like I have baby wipes, okay, everybody like open up your stuff, pass your trash forward. The next stop we take all the trash out. So it never like it's a system and
It's
they're
like
all
Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
yes.
Everything's getting thrown out as soon as possible.
Take your trash out every time we stop.
Kenny's just like, "Chuck it out."
Yeah, yeah, so, like but they can participate in it and clean. Now, the car still definitely gets messy, like, especially with Kate,
Which
the
is
younger one, like,
things.
there's still crumbs and shit everywhere we get out, but it's not to the level of when they're little, so there is certain things definitely change,
Mhm.
from it's all you guys when your kids are the ages they are, like, you don't have help, like, now that's something else we'll get into because I wanted to kinda, like you could tell us where you went, and I'll talk about where we went, but just, like, the differences in preparation, and a lot of things changed this year too, and part of it was me. Like, I didn't realize how much of the, like, getting ready trip process I micromanaged with them, just, like,
Mhm.
didn't even allow them to do it, and this year I was like, "You know what? Y'all can do way more than like, I don't need to be doing like, packing y'all suitcases."
Right.
Y but I was doing it up until, like, this year, I was packing all everything for all maybe Allie, like, a year ago, I started being like, "Okay, get your stuff." I would tell her what to get, and then
Mhm.
she'd leave it in the room, and I'd pack it, but I was still packing stuff for the boys, and this year, I stopped doing that. I'm like, "I'm not" and that made streamlined the packing process, like, because I was doing packing for, like, 4 people instead of just 1 or, like they're old enough to do it, so when they're
That's
old enough
nice.
to participate and, like, help you, it makes the travel process much smoother too, but you have to go through where you can't skip if you wanna go anywhere, you still have to deal with the little kid thing.
Yes.
But
That's a good thing to look forward to.
yeah, yeah, and I'm just now, like we're just now, like, at that place in the last, like, year or 2 where I'm like, "Hey, this is not so bad." Yeah.
True. Yeah, I mean, because we have the truck, it's super helpful. Like we have a Silverado, so it has like a good sized bed. And the back seats are actually pretty like spacious. So I always sit in between the boys at this age, especially if I'm feeding anything to Henrik or, Xavier. Honestly though, whenever I take him anywhere, I have snacks with me in like a little cooler backpack and I'm always passing him something. I feel like I am, especially if we're on the go or I'll give him like a deep container to have something in or, I don't know, that's just how I've been doing it. Or having like travel snacks that are not super messy, like meat sticks and string cheese and stuff.
Mhm.
You can keep it together with that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
that's smart.
So I think that so we went to this summer, we started out with movement technically was before summer started.
Yeah.
So that was our first road trip with Henrik, and then we did, like, a camping festival that was local about, like, 2 hours away. That was really fun, and kind of crazy, though, because
Did you
camping at
you
night.
brought the boys for that? Both of them for that camping festival?
So it was
That's a whole
family.
thing in itself, like, that's not just the travel, like, that's you camped with them.
It was fun. It was family friendly, and he had a great time with his friends, like, it really was
Cool.
super
That's
fun.
cool.
But that night was hard because the festival still has people that are up and lit and loud, and that was what screwed everything up for us. We were near people that were talking about the most ridiculous things at, like, 3 to 4 a.m., and you're just like, "I wanna go over there and tell them to go somewhere else or just yell at them all," but
Yeah.
I couldn't, and so, um
Was that something you had kinda thought about before, or is sort of one of those, like, when you're in the moment, you're like, "Why did I not consider that this would be a problem?" You know, like
Yeah, I just didn't think about it. It was like because the music was not
Yeah.
extreme, but it was loud until like 2 a.m.-ish. The
Yeah.
boys were sleeping for the most part, and then it was the people that were nearby that had no awareness. I was like, "Oh my gosh." So, it was a rough night of sleep for both our kids and the kids right next to us too.
Mhm.
Besides that, it was a really good time, and it was fun to just get that experience, but, like, best believe I left that night the next
Yeah.
'cause I was like, "No, I'm not doing that again." It was gonna rain the next morning, so I didn't wanna get stuck putting everything away in the rain anyway. But I was
Yeah.
just like, "No." So we'll try it again next year, but I'm like, "We're gonna put our tent alone in its own spot up the hill,"
Yeah.
like, on its own. So, anyway, that was, like, our first summer experience, and then, after that, it was drive to Ohio for a wedding, go to New Jersey for a family reunion, drive to Ohio for Xavier's joint birthday celebration. Then one more trip to Ohio, which I did not plan. We stopped in Dollywood, which we have season passes to. It's about an hour and a half away in Pigeon Forge, so it's really close to us in Western North Carolina. But I wasn't gonna go. But honestly, at that point of the summer, like I felt like I was telling you, I felt stretched thin. I didn't want to be at home with both the boys by myself for the weekend, which I could have managed if I was in a better headspace. But all the traveling, it's not only challenging during it, but also after. Like you have this sort of right after, you can feel almost like a not a jet lag, but it's almost like feeling jet lagged, but from a car trip. It's different but similar,
We talk about it all the time, we're like, we
you
were
know?
in the car for, like, 12 hours yesterday, and we get home, like, all we wanna do is sleep the next day. Like, you
Right.
get tired, and you're like, you're kinda like, "Why am I tired? I literally had, like, way lower activity than I'm used to," but, like, something out of even if your kids aren't a problem, and they're
Right.
low stress, something it just takes it out of you. I don't know, I don't have an explanation for it, but we feel the same way, like, we get home the next day, and we're just, like, dead, even
Yeah.
if even if everything went smooth.
Think it's the vibration of the car. Like you have a constant vibration going when you're accelerating, and I think all of that is just like a lot.
Maybe your body is just like, "We went quite a bit of distance. I know you didn't do anything, but we're tired."
Yes, and you feel it, and then I found that, like, it was like a recovery from not only the short-term trips, but then the accumulation of not really ever being able to settle
Yeah.
within that short time frame, so
Because our sleep when we're on a trip is always all over the place too, like, you're not on your normal sleep schedule any more than your kids are. So, like, you're not getting the same kind of rest you get at home. Even if the trip is enjoyable, you're not stressed out, like, it's just different. And so it's like you just get home and you're home and your body just relaxes.
yes.
I'm sure there's a number of reasons why, but it's the same thing for us. So no matter how smooth the actual journey, the travel went, like you get home and you're just like we're just the same thing, like just from our trip last weekend.
Mhm.
you know, that was fine. We weren't getting a lot of sleep while we were staying up late talking to our friends, but I felt okay when we got home from the car ride and I was like, I should be able to go to the gym tomorrow. I'm just now like getting energy back. It's Thursday. We got back Sunday night. Uh
Exactly,
Monday
it
we
screws
rested
you
we rested.
up.
I was like taking naps all day and I'm like, why am I taking well, we went to bed early at a reasonable time. We got in at a reasonable time. But
Mhm.
yeah, same here.
That's actually such a good point because I was wondering, I'm like, I've been trying so hard to get up in the morning to go because it's the
Mhm.
only time I have, and I cannot do it. And it's because I'm tired.
Yeah.
I cannot get to that point. So I'm like, okay, hopeful that this week, today I'm gonna go to the gym for the first time in a little bit and it'll be nice.
Yeah.
Even another thing too is like trying to create somewhat of normalcy when you're on a trip too by being active is also so important. And I did try to go on a couple of runs, but I will say that looking forward, if I ever have such a busy time frame again, it needs to be a non-negotiable that you will find time to go and take care of yourself. And
Mhm.
not just because I wanna work out, but because I need that time, and I should have found ways to plug it in, even if it was a body weight workout,
Mhm.
whatever it is, because that ended up being the biggest thing, that the lack of that, the endorphins or the moments to myself, even for a small amount of time, I didn't prioritize it, and that was, I think, why I felt so stretched thin at the end of it. Because if you see all of that, plans pop up, but it's like I knew that I was gonna be busy. So going forward next time, I will make it happen. That's like, okay, we're saying yes to all these plans. That also means I need to find a way to do something to make sure I'm taking care of myself because
Mhm.
I totally let it fall by the wayside this time around. And I was just like, but why though? I know better than that. And it's just it was so intense, honest. It felt overwhelming at times for
Yeah.
all the things that we had to do.
I was thinking the same thing too, like, and again, I can't quite pinpoint the reason, could just be age, could be just the way my mentality has changed around training is, like, so different, but back before I got into training as I know it now, like weightlifting and before I was a trainer, any of that stuff, and I just would run to stay in shape because that's kinda all I knew how to do. Like, I would if I was going home to visit family or going wherever, like, it was a non-negotiable. Like, I would bring stuff to run. Like, it was a
Mhm.
non-negotiable to me, and it wasn't even necessarily, like, out of, like, the paranoia of gaining weight or, like, any of that. It was just that's just what I did. Like, and
Mhm.
so no matter where I traveled, it was like I was always gonna at least probably run twice if I was, like, there for, like, a week.
Right.
And now I still run at home. I definitely it's not, like, the priority, right? It's like, you know, the little accessory thing I'll do once or twice a week is, like, my cardio.
Mhm.
Like, weight training is the priority, but for some reason, when I travel someplace, I don't it's like I was thinking about it, like, why yeah, bring stuff to go to the gym, but if you can't get there, you still could run like you used to. Like, why aren't you just kind of doing that fallback? At least to
Exactly.
get some activity in.
Right.
Um, and I still kind of, like, tried to plan for that when we, like, went to Texas and we were there for, like, 2 weeks. I brought running shoes. I didn't run once. Like, I just didn't make the time to do it, and like, I used to wake up early if I had to do that early, and
Yes.
I don't know if it's age where I'm just like, it's really hard to get up early to do that, but my mentality has also shifted where it's like, you're gonna get back to it. It's not the end of the world if you don't do it. So that's
Right.
kind of like I live in between 2 places because I'm very, very much against, like, you should not feel obligated to work out on vacation. Like, that's your vacation, that's why you work out all the other times of the year, so don't feel, like, stressed out when you're not training for, like, that week or whatever on your vacation. You should just enjoy it. However, when your summer is full of a lot of travel like ours was, or if you're someone that just generally travels a lot, you can't use that. You will have to figure out, like, something to do a couple of times a week or you're gonna go crazy or your health and fitness is it will backslide after so
Mhm.
many months off. So that was like I did have to adjust a lot of things, like, um I was, maybe making it to the gym twice a week, but that was like I was even on vacation when we're out of town, I was gonna at least try that, and I'm someone who prefers to do 3 or 4 times a week, but it was like, we're gonna try and make it in at least twice.
Mhm.
So that was sort of like my minimum, and sometimes, for a lot of the summer, that was, like, the most I could do. So I was doing a lot of full body workouts because I was like, "I don't know when I'm gonna make it in again,"
Right.
which that's not my favorite either, but it was still, I don't wanna do a leg day, and then what if this is the only time I can make it in this week? I couldn't train upper body at all, so I was just doing full body, like, pretty much all summer because I didn't know how frequently I'd be able to train.
Mhm.
But I could have I'm still like, you could have prioritized at least running to get steps in more than you did because you used to do that all the time, like, why it's almost like I have a mental block on reverting back to thinking that way because 'cause it's been so long since I've prioritized that, that
Same.
I have to, like, open up that switch.
Right, like, there is an option, you're just
Yeah, it
not
isn't it's still an
accessing.
option just because that's not my favorite and that's not the priority in general, like, if it comes to it and that's all I have, like, I can still do that more frequently than I do, if I'm
Exactly.
out of town, or displaced from, like, my normal routines, at least that's still something.
Mhm.
Um, or I could even just plan for that to be the only thing, like, maybe bring less, gym clothes and bring more, my running shoes and stuff I plan to run in, and just do that. Like take the pressure off to be like, okay, that is so time consuming to like drive to the gym and go to the gym and come back. Just bring stuff to run and plan to do that when I'm out of town. And so I don't know. It depends on where I'm at and how long. But I think a lot of like the awareness of that, shift happening or needing to go back to that sometimes. Like I am aware of that now to where it's like, maybe next time I go home, I'll just plan to run more than anything else as far as, like, some sort of training goes, um, because that solves the problem, but then also takes the pressure off of needing to be in the gym. I don't know.
It does, I mean, because it's a temporary phase. I think that for me, like, um, I'm in the same boat, like, I could have accessed it more, but it's also, like, when I had the breaks in between when I was coming home, I think I should have took advantage of that time too.
Mhm.
So, either way, shoulda, coulda, woulda, next time I know better, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can only do so much, I feel like. I'll let you go into, where you went and tell us more about that.
We started off the summer, we had let's see, we have Disney passes, we live, like, an hour and a half from Orlando, so we did a Disney trip. So, that's those are not big, huge things, but there's a couple of Disney trips sprinkled in, like, we had one in the beginning of summer break, like, right at the beginning of June, and then we went again for our anniversary, and, like, that was a whole like, usually they're, like, a day or we'll stay overnight, like, one night, just do, like, a weekend thing, but when we went in July for our anniversary, like, that was, like, 4 or 5 days, like, we made, like, a whole little staycation type thing out of that. So, obviously, that throws you off, and, like, when I'm at Disney, though, I don't care because our eating schedule we might maybe have 2 meals a day, and you're walking, like, crazy, like, festival level steps, so, like, that not training for that amount of time and eating whatever I want because I'm probably still eating less than normal, or at least the same, once you get to calorie content, like, that doesn't bother me. Um, so we did that twice. We went to South Carolina to see, Kenny's sister and, all my kids love their cousins, they're all around the same ages, and so we were there for, I think, like, a week.
Looks
Um,
beautiful.
it's beautiful, we had a lot of fun. Um, the nice thing is they have a really nice home gym. Like
Mm.
that was like, we spent, our investment when we moved back was remodeling our master bathroom. Like they made a nice ass gym. So like I had the option to work out. I probably worked out 2 or 3 times that week while I was there because it was right there. Like that was not an inconvenience. I had that. So that was nice.
Cool.
And again, because of our kids' ages, doing that kind of well, yeah, you're still not in your home on your routine, on your schedule. That didn't throw us off so much because they all play together, they're self-sufficient, like, you're not having to, like, watch them like you are when they're little, like your kids' ages. So it just does feel like a vacation, but also our schedules weren't that thrown off because we were able to work out at home and kind of I was still able to work, like it
Oh, nice.
wasn't anything crazy, but still at home, but a pretty stress-free trip. Um, so that was fun. Then we had the Disney trip in July, and then, like, the latter half of July, we went to, Texas. We drove there. So we everything we do, we drive because I flew a lot when they were little, and I could, have one lap baby or one lap baby and then just pay for me and the toddler. Kenny didn't come a lot with me, places. I traveled alone with them. I think I don't think I traveled once I had 3, I didn't travel anywhere alone on a plane. We that it became a lot less people had to come see us or, we would drive home for, maybe once a year we would be willing to do that trip with little kids because 'cause we've never lived anywhere that was like a day driving distance. It's always been 2 like, we have to break that up in 2 days. So then you have to it's not just the car ride, it's okay, the cost of, hotel in the middle, and if you have these are the differences. It's like, okay, the cost of feeding children, a family of 5. 'Cause that is like, you could pack snacks or you're just feeding, Xavier things, but then you
Mm.
have baby food for the little one, or he can share little things, but that is a difference. So there's pros and cons, right? The pros are my kids are really easy to travel with, but the con is we're feeding 5 people. It's not, you know,
Costly. McDonald's ain't cheap no mo.
it's yeah, McDonald's like $50 thing. It's not none of it's cheap. Still cheaper than 5 airplane tickets and
Right.
food, but, yeah, so when we've never lived anywhere where it was just a day trip. It's always a 2-day thing. Um, yeah, so Texas, that we decided this was the fun thing. The kids are now at an age where, like, going to a place like NOLA was feasible, because when they were younger, it's like, "Well, that's not gonna be fun." I mean, we could have been stopping there before, but what were we gonna do? We were gonna have to, pushing a baby in a stroller, yeah, it's doable, but you don't want to do that, and me and Kenny now have, like, the ability to where, like, our kids are old enough to where it's like, "Okay, we'll take y'all out for a little bit, but now y'all go back to the room, we're gonna go out."
That's
Kind
so
of thing.
nice.
Yeah, so, like, we broke that up and did, like, a day trip. Like, we made NOLA our halfway point from here to San Antonio, and the first ride over there, we broke that up and spent a day in New Orleans so they could see things and sightsee, and then we went finished and did day 3 of the travels was when we finished and went to San Antonio. Um but yeah, so that was that trip. Stayed in San Antonio for, like, 2 weeks, running around seeing people. Still managed to get to the gym a couple of times a week, I think, both times, so that wasn't that thrown off. But again, their cousins were over there, like, uh, Nicole and Jordan, Kenny's sister, they flew over there, so most of the time that we were there, they were there, kids saw their cousins again, so that was a lot of fun, but schedules were all thrown off. They're going to bed at odd hours, waking up at odd hours, it's eating schedules all over the place for
Mhm.
us and for them. Then we came back, a few days before school started. We left the Monday, a week before their school would have started, got back home on Wednesday, when it was like, boom, 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 now we gotta start getting ready. Like, they had open house the next day after we got home, and then it was like, now we gotta go school supply shopping. This is the weekend before school starts. Like, all
Yeah.
of these things, like, it just we came home and it was like, "Okay, now we gotta start doing stuff." Um, so yeah, fun summer. Much easier to travel with them now because, like I mentioned earlier, before, like, as a mom, you're usually the one you packing everything for everybody. When, you're packing stuff for yourself, and you gotta pack things for you have to pack things for the toddler, you have to pack things for the baby, it's all of these parts. You have to figure out, like, what can stay in the suitcase, what are you gonna need, like, readily available to you in the car? Um,
Mhm.
and I still do that. It's like, what are the things I need to be able to get to, or the kids need to be able to get to in the car versus what's gonna go overhead? Like, what do we need
True.
to pack in the overnight bag for the hotel versus, because we're not taking all of our luggage out every time. We're just taking the bag into, a separate bag. So, like, that has to be all, like, finagled. And before, like, literally, and what changed it for me was literally this summer. So when Nicole and her kids came over, like, I realized that she didn't pack any of the kids' suitcases. They packed it themselves, and it was because they forgot a bunch of shit. She she kinda, like, was like, "Why didn't I didn't know you brought that robe. Why didn't you pack a toothbrush? Now we have to," like, and she wasn't upset about it, but it was just like, "This is normal, they pack their things," and I was like, "Why the fuck have I been packing all their shit this time?" Like, your kids are younger than mine, like, they're all in the same ages, but my kids are all a little bit older, each
Yeah.
one. Um I'm like, "I only have Allie doing hers, like, the boys should be doing that. What's wrong with me?" Like, why it's
I get it. You don't wanna forget stuff. You
you don't
just
wanna
don't want them
forget
to
stuff,
be
and it's sort of
inconvenienced.
like a control like, I'm not super OCD, but I'm sort of like, "Let me just do it because y'all aren't gonna do it right, and like, it'll be faster if I do it," but it's actually not, and so I when we traveled, I was like, y'all are gonna pull I need you guys to pull out 5 pairs of underwear, 5 outfits, 1 nice outfit, like, I told them what to do.
Mhm.
You know, and then what I got to do was so they just threw it all out, it didn't need to be organized, and then I went through and folded it and put it in a suitcase. So then I kinda still got to comb through it, but at
Mhm.
least, like, I didn't have to do the thinking of, like, "Okay, like, I'm gonna put these outfits together. Do they wanna wear this?" Like, I don't know why I was wasting so much time doing that before when they just could have been doing it, and so it went much smoother. Like, so Cade pretty much would throw everything in his drawers out on the floor, and I was like, "Well, we're definitely not bringing this." So, but at least I got to, okay, have something to pull from, and then I would weed through it and streamline it, and if they forgot something, I'd go pick that thing up, but it made it so much faster because I wasn't having to think like, "Do they wanna bring this or not?" Like, "Okay, this is what you wanna wear, then that's what we're packing. You didn't lay it out." Um, and so
It's
I
a
still
transition to
yeah, I still
independence.
cross-checked it, but it made it so much faster that, like,
Mm.
now packing, went faster, but we also were doing it's funny because like, I'm someone who it drives Kenny crazy, like, it takes me forever to unpack, like, I have to go unpack my suitcase from this trip in Nashville, which oh, that's the one I forgot. So we still
Oh,
took
yeah.
one more trip, like, school started, and I don't know how I forgot this because this literally just happened, but we went to Nashville last week, to visit friends, but also Allie had a concert. We had gifted her back in March for her 16th birthday, and that was in Nashville, and that finally came around. So it was like, we've just been doing, like, literally every 2 to 3 weeks going somewhere, and I'm
Mm.
someone who's like, it takes me forever to unpack stuff, but I'm sort of like,
Same.
but it doesn't help when I'm like, "Why do I wanna unpack everything and put my suitcase away when we're just gonna have to drag all this shit out next week or into."
Yes. I
But
just ended up keeping it out and just because everything was clean in it, and I just was like, "Ooh, add a couple things,
yeah,
boom, ready to go
there
again."
were
So
some
it
weeks where
helped
that
with
actually
time.
was the case, like, it was like, I'm not okay, I'll unpack it, but there's no point in putting the suitcase away because 'cause I'm literally gonna have to take it out next week, like, because
Exactly.
we had something lined up. But now we're at a place where it's like, "No, no, no, we can actually put this away because 'cause we're not going anywhere for a while."
Mhm.
But yeah, we were living out of suitcases a lot, of the summer too. But yeah, definitely like, it kind of already covered the differences of like what you have to think about in prep when your kids are smaller
Mhm.
versus, and then you weigh out the cost of driving versus flying. 'Cause sometimes when you only have one kid you're paying a ticket for and you're not even feeding him full meals, and then you have a baby that's breastfed and a lap baby, maybe flying is the cheaper option because sometimes driving is like, you
It's too
know,
much energy expended,
they all
like
come with their separate things. Cause like, okay, do you wanna travel on a plane with paying for 2 tickets, just you and the toddler, like, if Craig can't come, having the lap baby, but then that comes with its whole other thing, like, getting through security with, like, your car seat and your diaper bag and your stroller and like all these things like that is a nightmare and you're sweating by the time you get through it. But then, okay, cost wise, was that cheaper than you driving in a car, paying for gas for all the stops, all the other food? Or is that the less stressful option? Like only based on like how your kids travel and what you're willing to deal with, because there's always trade offs.
and where you're going, because that accumulated
Right.
time going to the airport, going through the all the stuff, and then the flight,
Hmm.
and on the other side actually ends up being for us to go to Ohio, for example, the
Longer.
same amount of time to
Hmm.
drive or longer,
Hmm.
and I'm because I love flying,
Yeah.
but it's definitely different when you have kids. It's
Yeah.
just a little different. Like,
Yeah.
I'm willing to do it. I know the little tips and tricks that help the boys so they don't get the earaches too,
Hmm.
feeding them and all that stuff while they're going up, but it's just a little like it's a little intense when and I don't mind getting through those intense moments. It's just like, no, and it is a big deal now that the flights are I can only imagine when you have 3 extra flights to worry about.
Yeah. Like we're not going.
Crazy.
Like,
We're not
if
going
I can't
nowhere.
drive there, we're not all going right now. Like, there's just no way. There's no way for 5 tickets. Like, like, if we were people that I guess because we use airline points for a lot of things, but that's, like,
Mhm.
like a one-off for, like, me or Kenny or just, like, just the 2 of us. We don't have enough to be doing that repetitively for, like, the whole entire family.
Right.
Um, so and because me and him have to travel semi-frequently alone for, like,
Mhm.
job purposes, like, we have to have those points reserved for, like, when we need to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, for, like, a family of 5, like, again, there's just there's no universe that I can see right now where flying us all together would makes more sense than driving because we're
Right.
still having to pay the cost of the tickets for everybody plus food. Like we
And
still
then you won't have a car after. That's the
yeah, and then
problem
you
too.
got to figure out the car situation when you get there, or
But at
you
least they're not in car seats though, because that's the
right,
thing for your kids. At least you could go in like
right.
any transportation and be cool.
Mhm.
I'm all about public transportation if you have to use it from an airport to a different place because
Yeah,
the where your hotel is because then you could just take a shuttle. But then if you don't have a car seat, then how do you deal with that? So that is a tough part to manage that you
yeah.
have to really explore all of your options. But everything's been see family this
Mhm.
summer, so I feel like we didn't really have to utilize any of those things. I mean, because we drove most of the places. But when my mom and dad and brother met us in New Jersey, they picked us up from the Newark airport they already had a rental car that was bigger and then, 2 car seats that they had borrowed from people to use for our kids, so we didn't even have to pack our car seats, which was so helpful,
Yeah,
because you can have, like, the luggage, like the zip up, luggage for car seats, you can put through baggage claim or whatever on the belly of the plane, but it was also nice to have those things covered, but again, convenience of family picking you up,
yeah.
so it's not always like that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's trade-offs. When you have little kids, there are elements of flying that can be easier or harder to manage versus driving, and more costly. I feel like just in general, flying with older children is way easier, which is or not flying, driving, traveling in general, even flying. All of the travel, no matter how you choose to do it, is definitely easier as they get older
Mhm.
because of them being so self-sufficient. Like,
Right.
you can have them watch the other, they look out for each other. Like we function as a family unit now, where when they're little, it's not a unit. It's you two, if it's just you or if it's you and, Craig, like you're responsible like 100%. Like they're not helping you with anything. Like you are having to do all of it because they're little.
Right.
But now when they're older, you're like it's a unit. They look out for each other, you give them responsibilities. Like you actually are using the travel now to teach them things about, like you said, being an adult, like things that they need to learn for when they're approaching an age where they're going to be traveling alone. Like you trust them with stuff.
Yes.
Um age appropriate things. So the travel in general becomes much smoother and more fun, like way more fun. Those elements are less stressful. The stress comes from the cost. Like they become more expensive to travel with as they are older. That's the trade off. Like the
Right.
ease of the travel, like goes way up. Like the preparation, the travel in general goes way, way up. Like that stress, if your kids are relatively well behaved,
Mhm.
is way better. The trade-off is the cost. It now becomes, like, way more expensive to do this because it's not like when you had little kids and you could split a meal with them or they could share a meal with each other or you could just breastfeed your baby and weren't paying for any food. Like, that
Right.
the trade-off is the cost. Like, you're either paying for all those airplane tickets, you're paying for all this food, like, the activities they wanna do to entertain themselves are generally more expensive, like, so the cost is what is different when they are older, so that becomes the hindrance. It's not necessarily like the stress of the travel. That's easier. It's the hindrances. Okay, it's expensive for all of us to travel everywhere now.
Right, and I feel like for us, I will say that although it is stressful to travel with children, it's worth it.
Yeah.
You learn as you go though, like how
Mhm.
things need to be improved, and I learned this year because this is the first summer I'm traveling a ton. Not the first time I'm traveling with the 2 of them, but traveling this close together, like back-to-back trips.
Mhm.
I've learned more of what I need to do for myself and for them in between times, blah, blah, blah. But one thing that's very helpful, this is just like a practical tip. If you have a toddler or whatever age, bring something for them that they can use when you get there or along the way to get energy out. So, like, we have a scooter, a balance bike, a pedal bike. We didn't bring all of them, but having them in the trunk is super helpful because if you do stop at a rest stop and you have more time, just giving your toddler the opportunity to either walk or use like the scooter to go somewhere. A random place that I would stop and is like a non-sketchy hotel parking lot. They usually have a whole room in the parking lot where there's not traffic
Mhm.
for the toddler to go around. My son would just go around in a scooter, bike, and he'd feel better and his mood would be better because of it. Because at the end of those long trips, they just get stir crazy, which I understand. 'Cause, like, you feel that too. You want to get out of the truck or the car. But that helps a ton. And it also helps you set up better for nap times and all that kind of stuff. If you're thrown off, they're more likely to take their nap on time if they've had that energy out. So yeah, time that you leave and energy expended is super helpful for managing your toddler's emotions. And your baby's emotions are different. You can still help them to move around a bit because Henrik's at the age where now he's 10 months. He's cruising. He's not walking yet, but he was really fussy at certain times because he just wanted to stand up in the car seat. So as soon as like we would stop and I would stand him up, he was like, yes. But he's now fighting the car seat. So I have to like either distract him or just be like, sit down,
Yeah, yeah.
unbuckle him, you
Yes.
know, and he's pissed until we start going again. So those are the challenges, but they just come with age, and you basically just like suck it up, distract,
Yeah.
and or suck it up and deal with it, and then distract them, and that's what you got to do. You do what you got to do to survive that car trip, and then you make
Yeah.
it through.
I mean, kind of piggybacking off of what you said, like, it definitely the amount like, the distance you can travel and the frequency is definitely dependent on, your kid's age and what you're willing to tolerate because they each come with, like, their separate, pros and cons and stressors and stuff like that. But I've never let it stop me from going somewhere if
Okay.
I really wanted to go somewhere. Like, yeah, it was a factor in the frequency of whether or not I wanted to deal with it or whether or not I could afford it and those kinds of things. And like you said, like there's always going to be a limit. And it definitely like ebbed and flowed with how much we were willing to want to do that. Like we hated car trips, long car trips with our kids because maybe more with Allie when she was younger, but she went through phases where, like, if we were driving in the dark, she was screaming her head off the whole time. If the car stopped moving and we were at a stoplight, she was screaming her head off. So it was like, do I want to deal with an hour of like screaming? Not for a while, but it's like it's like we would do those trips, and then you're kind of like, all right, well, I really want to go here, so I'm just gonna like accept that that's gonna be a possibility, and then they grow out of it. You know,
Yep.
maybe there's another problem. So it's like it can affect the frequency, but it never stopped us from traveling if it's something we really wanted to travel to or needed to travel to. Like it shouldn't be a hard. Well, I have kids, so
Right. It
can't
shouldn't
go
be a
anywhere.
limiting
Like it's
factor.
never stopped us from doing something, and it doesn't stop you from just because you're in like what some people could view as a more difficult stage of traveling. Um, you don't let it stop you from doing something that you really want to do. And it is
Mhm.
teaching your like it's teaching your kids skills, like adaptability skills, even when they're little, whether you
Yep.
know
How
it or
to
not,
deal.
you know?
Yeah, deal with uncomfortable situations and
Mhm.
boredom, I think is super important. Just be like,
Mhm.
outside if you're bored or upset. Like,
Yeah.
we're chilling, listen to music.
Yeah. And that could be why like now my kids are good travelers now is because they've been doing it pretty frequently since they were little, like in some form or another, like whether that was just a day trip in the car or, a flight when they were little, that
Mhm.
like yeah, they get thrown off of their routines and when they're little again it's harder, but my kids were also those kids that like and it's again the kind of mom I am where like they had like kind of a loose routine that I would follow, but it was never super rigid. And
Right.
going to different places helped them be more flexible in general to where like now, yeah, they have a routine. I have a routine that I like to get back to, but my routine is still somewhat fluid always, all the time, all year because of the traveling that gets thrown in, sometimes
Yeah.
planned and sometimes unplanned. And so that just makes you a more adaptable, go with the flow person. Like, that's not to say, like, after, like you said, after so much time of something that you're used to, like a certain level of activity or a certain type of activity or a certain way of eating that gets thrown off when you're not in your own home, no matter
Mhm.
how much you try to keep it that way, like, you do long for that. So, like, there is an amount that there's a threshold for us, but
There's threshold, same here.
I feel like the threshold, like, is higher before we get to that level of, "I need to okay, I'm done traveling, I need to be back home for a little bit in my house." I feel like it takes me a little bit longer to hit that threshold because of the nature of how I am. It's like I got a plan, but it's always a loose plan that could be moved around a little bit.
Yep, same.
And I've always operated that way with my kids, and so they are naturally that way. Like, they know that there's a routine and there are rules and there's a schedule, like, this is when you need to get off your games, and this is when TV is shut off, and this is what time you wake up. Like, they have it's not like it's just a free for all, but
Right.
they are adaptable. Like, they understand that sometimes that's gonna have to change for whatever reason.
Mhm,
And that's because I didn't limit yeah, from the start, I didn't limit that with them when they were little. Like, if we're
mhm.
traveling somewhere, like, yeah, this is gonna be adjusted a little bit naturally, and that's okay. Like, we'll get back when we get home.
Yes, definitely, and resettling into your normal schedule, is also a skill because it's like you had the rules, like, a little looser, a little
Mhm.
less or, a little more time to do XYZ, a little more of this, but that's not all the time. That's not every day. So, now we gotta get back to a more, having somewhat of control of the reins a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling when it comes back around, but it's
Well,
definitely
yeah,
worth
and
being a little flexible
that
about
is
it.
a sign too that, like, even if you feel like you're someone who, like, "Oh, I don't really have much of a routine and I blah, blah, blah," like, if you're still yearning for that, like, after all this travel and stuff gets thrown off, I mean, you do have something, and you do like
Right.
it. You do like having some sort of a structure. So,
Like,
like, as
more
much as I
stable.
wanna say, like, "Oh, I'm pretty unstructured and there's chaos and it's all over the place," there's still enough of a structure that, like, I yearn to get back to it. Like,
Uh-huh.
the summer was fun. It, like, I already feel like this was probably one of the most fun summers I've had in as long as I can remember, like, childhood and adulthood included. It was a really fun summer. I was sad to see it go, but now that it's gone, I am also excited to get back into a more structured routine because it's just been all over the place for months, and I did the best I could, and I enjoyed it. I was not upset about it. So it's
Same.
not a complaint, but it is nice now to get back into more of a little bit more of a structured routine because there was no structure. It was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants and, like, getting stuff done when I could get it done, and that was fine. I was actually okay with it. It was probably the first time in a long time I was okay with that,
Mhm.
but now I'm happy that I can get back to something more a little bit more. I have the time to devote to that because you're forced when they're in school, you have a kind of a forced schedule that you follow.
Yes.
Um, so, there's not a complaint about one or the other, but the fact that I am happy to get back to that means that there was still enough of something that I missed.
Well, every season has its
Mhm.
different, like, vibe,
Mhm.
with everything and the pros and cons, and just that's how we are, we're dynamic people, as humans, and so, like, we enjoy different seasons, and so I
Mhm.
think that, I feel the same way, like, I had a wonderful summer, got to see so much family, made so many great memories. I have a lot to learn from it, and I definitely had, like, a lot of soul searching in the past couple of
Mhm.
weeks, like, that was kind of that was the vibe. I guess the whole thing is that, like, you gotta bring your kids where you go so you can still live your life. Is
Yeah.
it gonna be the same as when you're traveling by yourself? Nope.
Oh,
Is it gonna be convenient? Nope, but it's worth it because you still get to do the thing, you still get to live your life, you see your family or do whatever you wanna do, visit a
yeah.
new city with your kids, which NOLA is obviously, like, important
Yeah.
to us because our family's from there. It's its own special place that, like, never gets sick of it. It always has something new to see no
Yeah.
matter what, even if it's, something that's been there for a long time, like, the whole city is just so magical when you're visiting, for
Yeah,
whatever
and
reason
and
you're
and
there.
kind of like to that and I know we're, like, wrapping it up, but I think the whole thing is, like, yes, there are different stresses and costs and stuff associated with traveling with children, but don't let it stop you and don't put yourself in a box because using NOLA as an example, like, our halfway point when we would do the Texas trip was always, like, Gulfport. We had a hotel that we really liked. There's, free breakfast, like, we had a system with that, and so it was like we just never it never even occurred to us really to stop anywhere else because that was right about, like, halfway, and then we were like, "Hey, we have more time during the summer, then it's not just like a 1 week Thanksgiving break or 2-week Christmas break, like, we have time during the summer. Why don't we do something fun and make it a day trip rather than just, like, we stop, we sleep, then we get up, we wake up the next day, and we go again? Like, why
Right.
don't we find" and I was like, "NOLA would I think the kids would really like NOLA, like, I have things I would really" like you said, we've never lived there, but, like, we have heritage and history there with our family, and so we love the city, like, I wanna take them there. I think that could be a really fun day trip, if we broke it up and, like, actually stayed a full day somewhere. Did, like, a little family stop, and it ended up being so fun, and yeah, we couldn't have done that when they were younger, they're at really good ages for that now, but both me and Kenny were like, "Why didn't we think of this before?" Because we definitely probably could have been doing this, last year, and we're just now doing it now, and it's sort of like you put yourself into a box sometimes where you're like, "No, we've always done it this way, and that might be too hard," or, you don't consider it because you kinda just get used to, like, the little confinements you put yourself in.
Yeah.
But that went so well that we're like, "That's only an hour further." Like, go so it's like it's not quite halfway, like, it makes the first, coming from Tampa longer, and the second day to Texas is shorter, but then it's opposite coming back. It's like that first day is short, and the next day is a longer drive home.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
way more fun stop. Like, why did we limit ourselves to only doing it that way before? And we ended
Mhm.
up having so much more fun when we did something different. And so to that end, like, yeah, there's elements of traveling that are gonna have to be, maybe less frequent or they're gonna be harder. You're gonna have to plan more other costs, but you could end up having, like, all these other experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise had because you were, like, limiting yourself to being like, "I can't be that person that brings a baby on the plane, like, we can't travel, like, our kids are too like, I can't miss the gym, like, our kids they're not gonna be on the normal sleep schedule." Like, yeah, those things are true, but, like, you miss out on all this other stuff that you just would've.
There are headphones. Everybody has
Right,
headphones,
like
and if they don't have them, they get asked the stewardess if they're bothered by the child that much because they too were once a child. And
right.
I know that screaming's annoying, but too bad.
Trust me, no one dislikes it more than the mom dealing with it. I have been
For
that mom.
real.
Like, I feel really bad when someone has like, do I wanna hear somebody else's screaming kid on a plane? No, I don't. I don't. But I've been the mom with the kid who you're, like, desperately trying to keep quiet and you just can't. But, like, your other
What are you
option,
gonna do?
I guess you just don't get to see your family or visit any place because you're inconveniencing everybody else.
Yeah, no. Sorry, no.
Well, like,
Tradition.
it's a couple hours, I
Deal with it.
but, there's a difference between letting your kid just run all over the place and be an asshole on the
Oh,
plane
yeah.
and, like, your baby's just uncomfortable and crying. So I'm not justifying parents who, like, their kid is playing with the person's hair in the front seat and making a freaking mess and just being a
Right.
brat. Like, that's not okay. But, like, a little baby, you can only do so much. Um, but yeah, don't confine yourself just because you have kids. Like, if you want to travel, you can. It comes with things. It does, but
It's worth it.
it's worth it. I think it's worth it. I've never regretted it. Even the trips that, the car rides where they're screaming or the plane rides where they're screaming, like, I've never wished I hadn't done the trip.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good first episode back.
Yes, that's our recap for the
That
summer,
is our recap of
and
the summer.
yes, looking forward to what is coming next for the season.
Yes, lots of fun things to talk about coming up in the next few months on both sides, I think.
Mhm. Definitely.
Alrighty. See you guys next time.
See you.
Peace.